Welcome to Marketing with Confidence. I'm your host, Marianne Amies. We're going to be talking all things digital and online marketing for business owners and marketing professionals. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by your digital marketing, be sure to listen along and you'll hear tips, interviews and more that will give you the confidence to create marketing you love. Welcome to the podcast, Suz. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited about your podcast in general. I think it's amazing.
Well, obviously, my podcast even being in fruition is, hugely thanks to the work that I've done with you and the, motivation and inspiration to get it up. And I'm loving doing it as well. So it's one of the, best things that I did last year.
Well, I think you're like me. You and I can talk underwater. So I'm always about really leaning into your strengths.
Yes.
So why not?
No shortage of things to say ever. We're blessed. Well, look, obviously you've been a big part of my journey last year. I'm very confident that a lot of people know who you are. But if I could get you to kick off by just telling me about yourself and, how you came to carve out your space as a bold business and mindset coach.
Yeah, for sure. See, I always assume that people don't know me, which I think is a good place to be. It keeps you humble. It keeps you humble. Yeah, it's like for everybody that's listening that doesn't know me, hi, I'm Suz Chadwick. So I come from a sales background. I started my career in recruitment. And so I used to manage big sales teams here in the UK and in America and love sales, love business in general, loved mentoring people. And it just all evolved quite naturally. Like I was in recruitment and then I ended up working with a branding agency in London to do a big recruitment project that we had on. And I was like, what is this incredible amazingness that is branding and marketing? And we've done a little bit of it, but not to that extent. Like we were doing, ads in the paper and that like big things in train stations and event activations. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so fun. And so that kind of led me into wanting to find out more about the brand space. And just before I went on maternity leave, I met a consultant who was a brand consultant. I had my baby. I messaged her on LinkedIn and said, remember me? We met a few months ago. I'll work for you free of charge a day a week while I'm on maternity leave if you teach me everything that you know. Yeah. And so I just would work for her on a Thursday while, my baby slept, and we would be doing community building for brands and brand strategies and marketing strategies and all the rest of it. And I just loved it. I thought it was amazing. And so when I came back to my corporate job, I ended up moving into a employer branding role. Yeah. And just was constantly learning. I was just like, my appetite for understanding the digital space and building communities and building brands was insatiable. And that worked really well for my corporate employer. And I ended up building them a global employer branding agency where we worked with really big investment banks, really big media companies, all the big pharmaceuticals that you know. And it was just so fun. Like I loved it. And and then I ended up, and I built that from scratch. So I had to do all the messaging, marketing, branding, pricing, sales. Wow. And I had girlfriends that were really great at their jobs. They were on maternity leave and they'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to go back. And I was like, well, you're really talented at what you do. Like, what about if you just did your own thing? And because I was side hustling, I was kind of like looking at building my business. I just helped them to build theirs. And they were like, you should do this. I was like, should I? So from there, it just kind of grew. I worked with them. They referred me to friends. Yeah. And then I just started my own business. Yeah. That's awesome. So funny that you have that experience of working sort of in corporate and then getting exposed to marketing. And, it's sort of like the lights turn on. When I taught marketing at TAFE, oh gosh, it's probably 15 years ago now, which is quite I must have been a child. Yeah, 5. Yeah.
But half because I taught marketing at night, I would say 75% of my class was students that were like, I'm in sales or I'm in admin or I'm in HR, but I want to do what the marketing people do.
Yeah.
It's just such, I think, so, it's always that vibrant area of the company, and even if it's not, there's just this perception that it is, it's really, they see you doing all the exciting stuff, having all the fun. And it's, takes me back to that kind of stage where I heard that so often. And I think, marketing can spur on so many different career paths and different journeys as well. So that's great.
Yeah. And I think that for me, it definitely lit a spark.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, and then I just like read all the branding books and I was just obsessed with Marty Neumeier and Chris Do, and I would just watch YouTube videos endlessly. And I was just fascinated by it. And I think it was about the relationship. For me, it was like building these incredible relationships. And I think as somebody who, I used to buy a lot of luxury products when I was in London because I was obviously single and earning quite well. And I think that for me, as a consumer, I was fascinated by the psychology of brand and marketing as well, where it was just like, if it was a brand I loved, I would just do anything. I'd do anything to get into their sales, or I wanted their emails and just what it said about me. So I found it fascinating just to be in that world and just to watch how it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, to understand the psychology of that, what are they, what are they doing that elicits this response in me? And, how does that work with other people that aren't me? Yeah. I think that whole human behavior, I think that's why we all also want to study psychology. It's kind of like you study marketing, you're like, should I do psychology?
I think when you're in marketing, you're in psychology for sure. Yeah.
No, it's fascinating. Awesome. And obviously, you're someone who really talks about the importance of being the CEO of your own business. And I think it's a really powerful message to put forward to business owners now, because for many of us, we've come from being employees. We start a business and you're good at doing the do, but all the business stuff that goes along with it is like a shock to the system. Like, oh my goodness, there's finance, there's expenses, there's marketing, there's sales, all those sorts of things. And, becoming that CEO of your business. And I know you're a big advocate of having like a CEO day where you put on that hat. So you're a great person to ask this question about how you balance working on your business with working in your business.
Yeah, I feel like, so when I was in corporate, I feel like some of the habits, the good habits that I brought across to my business is that I remember a director of mine saying to me, because I was in this new branding agency space, she was like, just take a day out every fortnight or every week just to think. Because you've got to come up with models and concepts of how we're going to run this. I just want you to have that space to think and really think about the business. Yeah. Think about how we're running it. Think about the concepts that we need in order to develop it, to make it really attractive to the clients that we want to attract. And so I just brought that into my business when I came into my own work where, and I remember somebody saying, I can't remember who it was, but it was such a long time ago, like treat your business like it's your best client and you will continue to grow. Yeah. And I think that whilst I didn't have a CEO day at the start, I think I kind of maybe gave myself 2 hours on a Monday morning where I'd be like, okay, what do I need to focus on? What are we trying to do? When I say we, it was the royal, just me, myself, and I, by the way. Me and my team of me, myself, and I.
Have Friday off.
I always do say I've got a very good boss.
Oh, I say the opposite. I always say my boss is a real, works me to the bone, and she has these high expectations.
You've got to change it. You've got to get a new boss.
I was going to say, I need your boss.
Yeah, I'm like, my boss is awesome. My boss gives me lots of time to think about what I want to do. My boss gives me a pay rise, like on a fairly regular basis. I get Fridays off. But yeah, I think for me, it was, okay, how do I make sure that I'm investing the time to run my business really well so that I can grow it. And I also just want to talk about the CEO mindset. The reason that I talk about stepping up and hiring yourself as a CEO is because, like you said, a lot of times we are like the employee. We just work and we answer to our clients and we work long hours and that's where I think, you don't end up increasing your prices, or you don't end up doing the things that are really going to give you the business and life you want, because you're just in that churn employee mindset. But when you decide to hire yourself as a CEO, you're actually saying, let me take myself out of my business so I can see the wood from the trees and actually see what's going on. What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to do? And then what are the strategies that I'm going to create and implement, and the metrics I'm going to measure to see whether the business is doing what I want it to do, so that I can pay myself more, so that I'm not working all the time, so that I'm actually working with clients I really want to work with and not just whatever comes my way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And obviously it's like you're just talking to me. I mean, that's a big journey that I've had to go on of not being, the employee mindset and definitely expanding into that space of giving the business that time and like almost the airtime it deserves, where you've heard me say that a million times. If I could be my own client, I'd do an amazing job. So accountable.
Your own client.
Yeah, but I love that. I think thinking about your business and thinking about yourself as being hired into that CEO role really helps you then have that accountability and carve out that space where you are looking at the strategy, looking at the direction, looking at, what's next and how have we gone and where are we going, and having a set time for that as well.
Yeah. And so there's two things with that, is that I do think that there's an identity shift, which, I talk about quite a bit. I think there's an identity shift with it where you start to value yourself more when you decide to step out of employee mindset and into CEO, where you're like, if I was to honestly see myself as a CEO, I would value myself in a very different way. Like, I have got the strategic brain and ability to be able to grow a business. Like, just that in itself, acknowledging that you're capable of that, I think helps you to go after bigger things and be more strategic in the decisions that you make. And the second thing around how I balance the work, like working on and in the business, is I talk about professional practices a lot as well, where when we're working for somebody else, we're like, okay, these are all the tasks I have to do. And so I just get on and I do them. Whereas when we're in our own business, a lot of times, and I hear this from clients all the time, is, I just don't know if I feel like it. And I'm just like, it doesn't matter whether I feel like it or not. And obviously, if you're sick or whatever, that's different. But Mondays are CEO days. I have a catch up with my VA. I have certain times of the week where I'm doing my finances. I just emailed my accountant this morning with stuff. Wednesdays are normally coaching days and Thursdays are coaching days for me. So I have specific times of the week. And this is another question I get from people is, how do you know what to do in your business? So when you've got a CEO mindset and you understand what your goals are and what you need to do in order to reach those goals, obviously a whole lot of things drop out of that. And then having professional practices around, okay, I do my finances on Thursday, I do my CEO day on a Monday, I do my content on a Monday afternoon as well. Like, they're things that happen every week consistently. That means that you're operating as a business and not driven by emotion and whether you feel like it or not. Like, every week you do the sales stuff and the revenue generating stuff you need to do, because that's a professional practice of running your business well. So I think that's another thing I think is really important to kind of shift your identity into.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as part of that, it's also not banking on today's successes. It's that whole, if you're not growing, you're dying, because just because things are great today, you go, oh, I don't need to do the CEO. I don't need to look at things because things are really good. But then you don't foresee the whole in 2 months' time, or you haven't got enough in the pipeline because you're so excited about what you've got on and you're doing that you're not sort of refreshing what's coming in. So when other things wrap up or fall away, you've got the next thing and the next thing. And I think it's also the benefit of working on your business is seeing that more effectively and having plans, having your always on, your always on marketing as well, because at any time there's ebbs and flows within your current portfolio, especially in a service-based business, and you need to, make sure the next thing is coming through for you.
Yeah, absolutely. You've always got to, that goes back to my sales days of always having your sales pipeline.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, even what I'm doing now, it's probably not going to pay off for 3 to 6 months. Yeah. But if I'm always doing that, then I'm always kind of ahead of the game as well. And can I just say, I'm not 100% foolproof on this. Like there was not long ago where I did get a little complacent, where I'm like, oh, the money's coming in and it's not too hard. And I've been doing this for a while. And, and then I saw the knock-on effect of a few complacent months where I was like, meh, so I feel like 95% of the time I'm on it. But every now and again, we all kind of get a little comfortable. And complacency, what did they say? Complacency is the enemy of progress or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. That one like definitely works. That one works too. Like that one checks the box. But no, it's true. And funny, even we now take that approach in our agency with staff. So having what we call like on the bench, keeping people warm on the bench. So if someone comes, to us who looks like a great candidate, but we don't need that right now, I'm still like, let's interview, let's chat, let's establish if we could work together. And certainly when something comes up that fits, we'll reach out to you. And, it's that same sort of mentality of not waiting for the gap and always making sure you've got strategies, that you can draw on at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's such a recruitment thing. I remember keeping my contractors warm.
Yes.
It's like just calling. How's it going? Are you working anywhere? What's happening? Like just stay in touch. Yeah.
Pressure. Totally. I just wanted to say hi.
Just reaching out.
It's funny. My mum said that the other day about our real estate agent that we've worked with a few times. And he's also a good friend of mine. She's like, he's really good. He calls every year. And I was like, Mum, he's keeping you warm.
I've got a real estate agent that does that too.
Lovely guy.
I personally find it annoying, but anyway.
No, but lovely guy, but he's keeping you warm.
Yeah.
Let's talk morning habits. So, in CEO media land, we hear a lot about, the magic morning and those sorts of things. So I wanted to hear from you. What are your morning habits? What are your secrets to getting the day started?
Sleep in, lots of coffee, start late. No, I'm joking. Just start in my pajamas. No, I think for me, this has developed over time. But yeah, I definitely have a morning routine where I kind of, depends on what time I get up. So sometimes I wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. But literally my eyes open. I'm like,
you're ready. Yeah.
Like, let's go. And on mornings like that, I'll actually come into the office in my pajamas and I might just like do a couple more thoughtful things. What I mean by that is like I might write a little bit of my book or I might sit and if I'm writing something that needs me just to sit and think, I like to use that as thinking time rather than admin or doing bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And then my kids are up and all the rest of it and my hubby goes to work and then for me, I do a lot of thought work, which, I talk about, and I feel like it is the most powerful thing. So, when I wake up in the morning, I try and have really intentional thoughts around like, today's going to be great. I'm going to, what if I'm doing content, like I'm going to totally nail today. It's going to be easy. Like I tell myself that things are easy a lot of the time because I feel like even yesterday I was using a new camera. I was doing some videos. I could have thought, oh, I've got to work all this new tech out. This is going to be so hard. But I just tell myself this is going to be easy. Like I can sort it out. And so I find that things flow a lot better when I'm having my coffee. I think about, how I want my coaching calls to go. That today, and I say things like today I'm going to like attract 2 new clients.
Yeah.
Like I just put it out there. I just try and have all of these really positive thoughts. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm just going to I'm going to have an extra $30,000 this month. Who knows how?
Yeah.
I'm just like putting it out there. And then
I tell the universe what you want.
And I feel like my brain sort of searches for those things as well. And it just makes me happy.
Yeah, totally.
To be honest, just having those thoughts. So, and then in the morning, I'll just sit and work through. I try not to do to-do lists, but I do time block in my diary. So instead of writing like 3 things I have to do, I'll actually go and say, okay, I'm going to give myself an hour to write on the book, and I block it in my diary. And then if I want to do the videos, I'm going to give myself an hour and a half. And so I block it in my diary, because I am a big believer in a task will take as long as you give it. So I give my tasks set times, so I know I've only got an hour to get that done, rather than it's on my to-do list and it could take 3 hours if I've only got 3 things to do. I'm like, okay, that's a half an hour task. Get that done in half an hour, and then I find I end my days earlier. Like when I'm more structured with my to-do diary rather than my to-do list, I find I get things done quicker. I'm a lot more focused, and then I finish my day earlier.
Yeah, I like that. So yes, I mean, sometimes I put things in my calendar to hold myself accountable. I would do this, planning piece, but I haven't thought about actually making the time of that accountable. And I think that's a good point. Sometimes like with deep thought work, I can get really unfocused during it. Like I'll procrastinate through it, or I'll faff around here and there, do a little bit, go faff around on something else. And I wonder if sort of having a time block for myself would make me sort of go, no, you've got an hour to do this. Get in there, be deep with it, and then get out. So I think that's a great tip.
I think that's become part of my professional practices is allocating time, specific amounts of time. And being honest with myself, going, okay, I want to write all of these emails. I've got 10 emails to write or whatever. How long do you reckon that's going to take you? I reckon that's probably going to take me 2 hours to sit and write them, and then just go over and review them. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to get that done in that amount of time. Like, I think just setting my own mind that that's how much time I've got allows me to get through it quicker.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. No, mate, as I said, it makes perfect sense. And I think you and I have that same, well, I think mine is a bit more worse, structured to-do list. Tick off. We've talked about this before. Mine is very task orientated, primary. And I think, sort of hacking that system almost, working into how my brain does love tasks and does love to tick things off a to-do list, and using that strategically with time limits and things to sort of hack into that as well, I think could work quite nicely.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, like we were talking about you doing a podcast because you're leaning into your strengths. Like, I'm sure you're like me. I have big capacity.
Yeah.
Like, I can get a lot done.
Yeah.
And so I would rather tap into that strength of mine and get a lot done in a shorter period of time, so that I can take the kids to the pool at 2:00 on a hot day. Like, for me, that's a motivation. Like, Suz, like, be the CEO, get in, get out, do it well, like, get more done, be super productive, work from 9 till 2 or whatever. And then, like, say to the kids, 2:30, we're going to the pool, like, get ready. And then I know I've got something that I need to, like, be accountable for. But I'm just like, what are your strengths? Like, where is it that you are super productive, and how can you tap into your natural strengths and capabilities more to have the life that you want and be productive in your business and still get it all done?
Yeah, that's so true. And it comes back to what you said a lot earlier about the job that you had, where you were told to have a day, a fortnight to think. And, again, I guess if you're a business owner that needs to, continually have creative ideas, or continually kind of have that fresh energy, problem solving, next big thing, giving yourself that time, recognizing that you need that sort of time, and blocking out, like really playing to, as you said, the strengths of who you are and how your own mind works and what's going to make you the most effective, rather than trying to work against it, you know, putting everything in place where you can work with those strengths and get the most out of your day as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I come from a project management background. So we were very like, you know, I had my Gantt chart.
I love it.
You know, and I had to like get clients in on that and work to deadlines and timelines. So, and I like that. So I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to use that in my business. Like, you know, I've got, you know, I don't know, launches or particular things I'm doing. And I'm like, right, by Tuesday on that day, all this has to be done. And my VA and I work like that too. Yeah. Like we've got dates and times and specific things that need to be done. And we meet up, we talk about it, and we work in Asana and check it off. And so I just think, you know, being planned and organized, I think is a great thing to develop if it's not something that's natural to you. I think that it gives you a lot of freedom, a lot of time, and it allows you to be really organized so that things get done well.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, now I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about evergreen content. So it's a bit of a flip, but you and, you know, again, conversations that we've been having, and again, a lot of the content that you've been focusing on, especially, you know, with the kickoff of a new year, has been around the importance of evergreen content. So I was really keen to sort of have you come along and, you know, for this particular interview series on what, you know, CEOs need to pay attention to. So I was hoping you could share with us what it is, firstly, for those that don't know, and, you know, why it matters right now.
Yeah, I think it matters more than ever, to be honest. So evergreen content is any content that you develop that I think is high quality, that can be found at any time, even when you're not around, by your ideal client. Like that to me is evergreen. Like whether you did it 3 years ago or a week ago, it's still working for you. And so the first thing with evergreen content is deciding what kind of content it works for you. So for us, it's the podcast. You know, it could be SEO blogs. And obviously with the podcast, you might have an SEO title so people could find you in the app, in the podcasting, whichever podcasting app. Then it's on your website for SEO content as well, so you can be found through Google. We're starting to do the podcast on video now because YouTube continues to be like growing even more with the rise of video and shorts and all the rest of it. But I think it's about being strategic and having the CEO mindset of how are we growing our brand without it taking the hustle and churn from us constantly that really social media requires. And so that's why I'm passionate about it, because, you know, I just think that the more women in business I speak to, the more the focus has very much been on how do I grow my socials? How do I grow my socials? And it just goes back to things that I think that, you know, people I've been following talked about for a long time is building your brand on borrowed land, you know, on land that you don't own. And I think that as TikTok and Instagram and everything continues to grow, we've just got to be more strategic in how we think about, you know, the kind of content that we're creating, and also asking yourself, are you happy with what you're creating? Or is there a sense of scarcity, as in, oh, like I've got to create more, like it's never enough. And also, is it working for you, or do you feel like you're churning and burning because the machine requires you to constantly feed it? And so for me, that's really, from a strategic perspective, where are we spending our time? Where will we be found if we put this YouTube video up or this podcast for the next 3 years? And how can we get more out of it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that sort of reliance on social media, and, you know, obviously I've got a digital marketing agency, and I do believe in the power of social media, but it's one piece of a bigger puzzle. And number one, to create, you know, long form, high quality text content and just put it on a social media platform is such a disservice to the time and effort that you've put into create it, because it's not findable, it's not Googleable. You know, nobody's nobody's going to come across it. And, that effort that we put in, but we feel very much like, business owners I talk to feel very much like that's where it's at. I still lose breath when people tell me they don't have a website because they have social media. The gasp.
Yes, I'm the same.
It's sort of like, and coming back to your point, like that borrowed land, I always say, what if it shut down tomorrow? What if the platform shut down tomorrow? What if tomorrow they said it had to be $1,000 per month? And that was starting in 5 days' time, to not have, that content elsewhere, to not have built a website, to not have repurposed as well, made one piece of content go further for you, and just putting all your eggs in that in the moment social media basket. You're subject to the algorithm, you're subject to so much, and you're putting so much effort into it as well. So I, obviously agree with you wholeheartedly about how important evergreen content is to building a lasting impression. And I know myself, my blog goes back to, I think about, gosh, got to do the math now, 2011 maybe. I didn't start it straight away, 2011, 2012. Some of our top hits on our website are still posts from then, and that's huge. That's something that, again, I wrote 10 plus years ago, and it's no effort in my week, but it's a way that people are finding and then seeing, building their trust and credibility relationship with our brand. So, and that just doesn't happen with social media. You don't find a post from 10 years ago and, and certainly that, read that and then go to a website and see more, it's completely different.
Yeah. And I think just really understanding where your clients are coming from, and I think is one of the key things. Like, we did some analytics a while ago, and 30% come from the podcast.
Yeah, wow.
And so what I found from a customer journey perspective, which is another thing I think it's really important for you to understand, is where are your clients finding you? So I get people that find me through other people's podcasts, or through me speaking at events, or through me doing masterclasses for other groups, so memberships, masterminds, etc. And then they usually come over to my socials to get to know me. Yes. So I think that's really interesting too, is that, I know where my clients are coming from. And so socials are not, where I guess people are finding me and buying. Yeah. Maybe that's because it's not where I'm putting the majority of my effort, but I find that other things that we're doing, which is more evergreen, that's where conversions are coming from. That's where people are like, they get on the podcast and then they binge for like a few weeks, and then they message me on Instagram saying, how do I work with you? Now, to me, I'm just like, you're allowing somebody to spend time in your long form, high quality content, which builds trust really quickly. Whereas on Instagram or TikTok, I just feel like you need to be posting like once or twice a day. Like there's a lot of content that needs to happen in order for them to build that trust over a longer period of time as well.
And to your point, they also need to have discovered you on there. So even if you are posting once, twice a day and it's really high quality content, you almost certainly need to be advertising, paying to play in that space to get them to discover you there purely. It really is that ad space now. We pretty much only pair organic management with paid management because that is the only way to get the most out of organic, is to have a paid component with it for discovery. To your point, people are coming to your socials from other sources. And, social is such an important trust point, credibility point, building and nurturing relationship, letting someone feel over time that they know you. But, with discoverability being so difficult now on there, you do really need to have other sources that are driving them to it. And none of us can look past how important Google is. And Google will always be the highest intent. If someone's searching for your solution, for your offer, asking that question to Google, they are more ready than if they happen to come across you on social media. They may happen to come across you and then go, oh, yeah, I was looking for this. But, 9 times out of 10, it's, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to follow along and see if this is for me. They're not necessarily ready to go. Whereas people that are searching that need, they're high intent, they're ready. They're looking for answers to a problem they're expressing. They're in their conscious state. They're not in their unconscious need of, I need something, but I'm not quite sure what it is, or I have a problem. I can't quite articulate the solution I need.
Yeah. And I'd rather have 5,000 listens on a podcast and have 5,000 views on a social media post, because I feel like somebody who's invested in reading the blog, watching the video, or listening to the podcast, like they're giving me their time, like they're more invested in like consuming that content rather than somebody who's sitting watching TV, having a conversation with their partner and flipping through and maybe just seeing my post and that counts as a view or whatever. Like I just think I would rather be creating that and then having somebody else cut it all up and put it on my socials. So my socials still get, still get to see that. But I just think the way we've got to think about it is that master content. It's like, what's that one piece of content that you're creating that really is cornerstone, it's evergreen, it's high quality. Like if that was the only thing somebody saw, you would be like, yeah, like that really represents me. Yeah. And then really seeing everything else, because that's what it is a distribution channel.
Yes.
Like everything else, all your socials are just distribution for something that you've spent time creating that is going to work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like coming back to it, and is housed somewhere that can be found.
Yeah.
So, whether that's the transcript of your podcast, which might then lead somebody to the actual podcast recording, or it's, keywords in your podcast that they can search when they're looking for a new podcast, or, just on-page content that's SEO rich. So, I think it's also all those sorts of things as well, where you've got that opportunity to snap them up and bring them in and let them build that relationship with you as well.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting because one of the things, and I did a video on it recently, which is also a podcast episode, because obviously we like to repurpose, is, somebody who I really love and admire and I think is really great with content. She was just saying, oh my God, I feel so stuck because all I'm doing is consuming other people's content and it's stopping me from creating my own like content that I want to. And so I was like, it's like when you're in a content coma. Yeah, where it's just like you're just constantly consuming other people's stuff and it's stopping you from creating this kind of high value evergreen content. And so this is almost coming back to the CEO mindset of giving yourself the space to not be consuming, to sit and think, what is it that I'm trying to communicate to my audience? Who am I speaking to and what do I want to say? And then spending time creating that and being really focused on your business being your best client. Rather than trying to do to-do lists and do bits and pieces and then consuming people's content. Like really have those professional practices that are helping you build your brand and grow your business so that people can find you and you can get more clients. Like I think just once again, stepping back and seeing the wood from the trees and really asking yourself, are you working on your business and creating assets in your business that are going to work for the long term for you, that allow you still to do the social thing, but it's not where you're spending your time?
Yeah. Yeah. And having those foundations in place, it's what we always get back to in terms of the foundations of strategy in place. Like know who you're talking to, know the message that you're trying to get out there, and then work on making, high impact content with those two things in mind. Because you're right, when you consume other people's content, you're just in a me too, oh, she puts out 10 videos a day that are cute and funny. I should put out 10, but what's it for? Who is it for? Is your ideal client even consuming that sort of content? Are they even in that space? And getting really purposeful with it as well. And having that, that greater mindset and valuing it. I think, it's a bit of an aside, but I think sometimes with social media, because it's free essentially to create and take part, we don't value the strategic importance of it as much. It's sort of like, oh, I can do that quick. I can do, and there's a pressure. I've got to put something up. I'll do that quickly. And then we lose sight of the strategy. But I think with evergreen content, there's a more strategic place that you're coming from in the beginning, which actually makes it higher value, higher strategic importance, and a greater impact for your business as well.
Yeah. And I have to say that anybody that I have bought from that has cost above $2,000, I have consumed their evergreen content.
Yeah.
And then I've bought. Yeah. So I might have, I've found them on YouTube where I was looking for a specific topic, wanting to learn something, consumed a lot of their longer form, high quality, maybe gone over to socials to check out what they're doing there. But it's been their podcast or their videos that have really made me feel like I can trust them and that I know what kind of content and the quality of the content that they share. Yeah. And so I feel like if you're wanting higher paying clients, a lot of the time, it's not always the case, but I feel like if there's a higher chance of getting higher paying clients if they can listen to a longer form, higher quality piece of content from you.
Absolutely, because the trust of that is so much higher. They've experienced you in a different, more in-depth way. They've understood more of you. And it comes back to that position of giving. That person's giving value, but they're giving it in a really meaningful way that's rich. You've probably taken a few key takeaways, and then you're like, I want more of this. I want more of this on a deeper level. But, and that psychology of a consumer, you're right. I mean, sure, there's always outliers, but the majority of people that are going to invest a, significant or meaningful amount of money into their personal development, they're going to have ticked the boxes. They're going to have checked it out thoroughly and given time to collect that data that this is the right person for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also just one other thing on that is it's such a funny thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is when I look at people that I really respect and love online who I kind of hold in high regard, I'm like, would Brené Brown do a miming reel, Suz? Do you feel like that's really reflecting you and putting you in the brand position you want to be? Would Chris Do do a dancing? Not that I don't think I've ever done a dancing video, but I'm just kind of I think it's about also what kind of content are you creating that helps you to position your brand where you want it to be as well? And so that's something I think you should be thinking about. If you're wanting to charge $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever it is, where do you need to position your brand and what does that position look like to you?
Are you a dance instructor? If not, should you?
That's different. Yeah.
If not, should you be dancing as part of your marketing strategy? Perhaps not.
And that's a question that only you can answer. Yes, and I do think I am a big advocate for putting you into your brand and for you to be very authentically you, because I think that that's important. There are certain people who are a certain way and I'm they're not for me or they are for me. And I'm very clear on that because they're very true to themselves. So I think if that's you, but I think for me, I'm kind of if I really want to position my brand where I want it to be, what kind of content do I need to be creating and how can I do that in a better way? So always challenging yourself as well to be better, to do better, to create better. I think that's just something that I'm always thinking about for myself as well. How can this be better?
Yeah, of course. And because we're all evolving, you look back at what you did 1 to 2 years ago, and often it doesn't resonate with where you are now. You think, oh, okay, I wouldn't say it that way anymore, or my thinking has evolved. I actually see this through a new set of strategic eyes, or, and I think it's as we know, it's okay. It's okay to continually be evolving and to be looking to new, I guess, or to be holding different standards to yourself as you go on and, as you evolve and think, actually, I want to be positioned more towards this. What actions do I need to do in terms of how I'm presenting my brand and myself to get myself there as well?
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Thank you. It's been such a great chat. I think everybody's going to go off from this podcast and think, I need to write a blog post. I need to create something. You need to get on my podcast. No, you need to do something long form and, their benefit, even myself as, as a marketer, I'm constantly, surprised by new thoughts within my own strategic, I guess, intent. And it does make me think as well, how can I be better utilizing my content? I take my podcasts and I often break them back down on my social media, but I haven't been doing anything in terms of blogs, haven't been doing anything in terms of YouTube for, to support this. And it makes me go, there's so much opportunity there that doesn't actually involve more work or more deep work. It just involves more strategic intent.
And I also think get somebody else to do it.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
People are like, oh my God, like, how am I going to do it? Like, I went on Upwork and I hired a guy in Sydney who does video editing. And we're working out that process at the moment. And it's not massively expensive. And I just think, I'm thinking I want to hire like a social media person part-time who can just go into a content library, who understands what it is that I'm trying to say and what, good pieces of bite-sized content is, and letting them go and just do that. So I think it's about, leaning into your strengths and what you do really well, and then outsourcing, even on a contract basis to start with, and just getting them for a couple of hours a week until you get to a point where you might need them more, and just like getting other people to help you. Like, you can distribute and create that machine for yourself without it being you.
Oh, absolutely. And it goes back to, again, inspiring quote that I think I stole from you.
I'm always intrigued to hear what it is.
I know, you're like, which one? Feel nervous. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. One of my favorites of last year that I still mantra to myself all the time. I mean, having grown up through a digital agency, I can do it all. I can get in WordPress. I can, there's probably not a tech problem I can't solve, but really, should I be, and I challenge myself. And now, we have a head of marketing and I see myself in her when she says to me, oh, I could jump into it. I'm like, just because you can doesn't mean, are you the best person to be doing this? I don't think you are. Like,
I love it.
And for me, that's a massive CEO mindset. Would the CEO go to the photocopier and make 50 copies just because he knows how, or she knows how to do it? Like, absolutely not. So, I think asking for help, flying the white flag, asking for help, delegating and using your amazing brain that's got you this far in your business to do the best things it's there for, not to do the things that, I guess, admitting you've outgrown some things.
Yeah, for sure. And building the kind of business that can scale and that you want to be in, where you are in your zone of genius, and allowing others to be in their zone of genius, helping you.
Yes. Oh, yes. Big, massive fan. It's up on the wall behind me, the giant leap. Love the zone of genius as well. But
so good.
No, fantastic. I feel like I could talk all day here with you, Suz, but I'm sure everyone needs to get on with the rest of their morning or afternoon. So thank you so much again.
My pleasure.
Again, where can people find you if they want to follow along and start consuming more of your amazing content?
Thank you. I love this chat as well. I could talk about this all day. So you can find me at suzchadwick.com, which is my website. I'm at Suz Chadwick, SUZCHADWICK. Almost didn't know how to spell my own name there. On all socials, and I've got the Brand Builders Lab podcast as well.
Amazing. Such an amazing podcast that I consume and absolutely adore consuming. So thank you again, and until next time. Hey, thanks for listening to another episode. If you don't want to miss one, make sure you subscribe to the show in your podcast app. And if you love it, be sure to share it with friends and colleagues who you think could benefit from increasing their digital marketing confidence. Want more? Head to marianneamies.com to find out how you can work with me directly, to reach out to have me speak at your event, or to grab yourself some free resources.